How's it going, guys? Before I start work today, I've just pulled up at the car sales. I've just got to give Monica a present. It's her birthday. Well, technically a day ago it was. Good morning, Miss Monica. I'm bearing gifts. Happy birthday.
That was a bloody week ago, but thank you.
I'm a bloke. By the way, Molly, how did you hurt your ankle?
Well, put my foot on a clutch and the pedal broke.
Okay, Molly. By the way, just out of curiosity, I know this is not like a relationship channel or nothing, but if your partner forgot your birthday, what would you do?
I would send him to a bloody gulag.
Wow, that's harsh. Anyway, I best get to work. Have a nice day. Enjoy your chocolates and your WKD. See you later.
I will need it. Bye.
Woohoo! It's running! I think it'd be safe to say that engine's bollocksed. The story is the car was being driven along and all of a sudden it started like jolting, and then it got worse and worse and started rattling, and then it went into like limp mode. The power was reduced so much that it was crawling along. I think the engine was actually heat seizing. When it eventually crawled to a halt, and the flipping engine sounded like an absolute bag of nut and bolts. I would say a con rod is about to let go and come through the side of the block. It hasn't been started since it actually stopped, and it wouldn't start again afterwards. It just would not start whatsoever. So, but we know the cam chain, the timing chain's working and everything like that. So it's almost as if it's lost its oil pressure. So we're going to change this engine. I think what I'm going to do, once the engine's out, I'm then going to investigate to see what's wrong with it, because that'll be quite interesting. But in the meantime, I've got another engine I'm going to fit. But for today, all I'm going to do is get the bloody engine out of this thing, which, believe it or not, is not that bad a job. I think the hardest bit was just that stupid bit, that cover on that ECU. Annoying. Anyway, let's do this. The flipping ECU here has got this metal plate over it, and it's held in by two shear bolts. And they're a pain. Well, this one's not too bad, because what I normally do, I get a sharp pin punch and bash it so I get a little indentation in the bolt. Then I can like spin it round, and once these are free, they spin out quite easily. Well, this one does. But there's another one. This one here, you can't see the end of the shear bolt because I've just glued with some araldite a 10mm nut on it. I did shock it free with a pin punch, so it's moved, but it seems to be tight. So I'm actually going to put this socket on it and see if the glue holds it and actually undoes it. If it does, I'm lucky. Oh, something's moving. It must be coming out because that nut would have come off. Oh dear. That didn't feel good. Oh! Oh my God, it's come out! There you go. Thank you, Araldite. Well, that's the hard part over. Now we can just remove this bracket. Why the hell they got to make ECUs so flipping hard to get to, I'll never know. Back on the ECU, there's a big plug here. You just push the clip in and then you can push the lever down and that'll pull the plug out. So that should just pop out like that. There. One more multi-plug. Just pop the clip in and then you can pull it off. Bingo. If you strap that wiring loom up onto the top of your engine, just so it can't get caught or in the way of anything. There's a 10mm pinch bolt on the bottom of the steering column. Get that out, then you can lift your column off the steering rack and move that out the way. One plug connector for your mass airflow sensor. Airbox needs to come out. And I'm going to remove the battery and the battery tray as well. What I like about these is you can disconnect all the wiring from multi-plugs, like from the fuse box here, and just move that onto the engine, so you can leave all the wiring on the engine intact. And obviously the top cover just unclips and comes off. In fact, while I'm here, what I'll do is, you've got to separate this fuse box in half to get the wires out. So I'll start off by getting that main power lead out of the way. One 13mm and then that just lifts off. 11mm earth strap up by your shock absorber strut. Two great big multi-plugs. Then all you've got is like two of these clips that you just prise out of the way. And that's it. The whole top half of the fuse box just lifts off. Woo-hoo-hoo! And then you can just disconnect the wiring from inside the bottom half of the fuse box. One plug connector, one terminal, that's it. It would take forever to show every single thing I've got to disconnect, but the general idea is you start at one point, you see what's connected from the engine to like the car, then disconnect what you can and work your way around in like a circle. You won't be able to disconnect everything because you've probably got to get underneath and things like that, but we'll get undone what we can from the top and then we'll get the subframe off. And if there's anything sort of like interesting that's worth noting, I'll show how it's done. 3/8mm and that metal cover on top of the fuel filter's got to come out of the way. Then you've got this outer fuel pipe which has to come off, and there's another fuel pipe here. If I can pull it off, that's got to be disconnected. These two fuel pipes together, they're going to be clipped in around the way. You need to unclip it all the way around. There's another clip there by the high pressure fuel pump. And now you can just lift them pipes out of the way. If you cable tie them fuel pipes up to your bonnet rod, they're not going to drop down and sort of like hinder you. I almost forgot to drain the aircon gas. I'm going to take the subframe off now, but there's like an 18mm nut on your anti-roll bar drop link. There's another 21mm nut on your steering trackward end, 32mm hub nut, and an 18 and 15mm bolt and nut on the bottom ball joint. So I'll get all these undone. Any threads I'm going to clean up with a wire brush, put a little bit of oil in them to make it easier, penetrating oil. These underfloor trays, you don't have to actually take them right off. What I just do is, I just bend them and I'll just strap them up out of the way. So now you can get to everything you need to get to on the subframe. Two 10mm on your exhaust. There's a 15mm bolt on your gearbox stabiliser. that could be quite tight. That come out easy. You know, my old tea trolley, because I do drink a lot of tea, that tea trolley has found a specific use. It's a bloody lifesaver when it comes to removing subframes. It's a little bit low. I'd like one that was a bit higher, about up here would be great, but it's not. I've got to crouch down, but it's better than dropping a subframe on the flipping floor. Anyway, I suppose I'm going to down this, then we'll whip this frame off. Woohoo! I'm just going to take the ramp up just a little bit so the subframe drops about, I don't know, 6 inches. That'll give me enough room to disconnect the wires on the steering rack. So there's 2 plug connectors on this steering rack motor. That one there, which has got to come off, and this plug connector here. You basically just pull the red tab back like that, and then you press this like tab here, and then you can move the whole plug connector out like that. Just know on the passenger front of the subframe there's a wiring harness that's clipped into the frame. You've got to pull that clip out. And don't forget your radiator hose that's clipped into this subframe as well. They need to be unhooked. Now would be a good time just to give your bottom arms a tap to release the ball joints. If I take the ramp up, this subframe should stay on the tea trolley now. I have removed the coolant bottle expansion cap to let gravity into the cooling system, and I've also fitted a piece of pipe coming from this drain tap on the bottom left hand side of the radiator. So all you do is undo this and we'll let the water drain out. And we shall manoeuvre this out of the way now for the time being. There's 2 15mm nuts on the exhaust downpipe going onto the centre section. I thought this one was actually undoing, and then it just snapped off. So I'll knock the stud out later. But this other side, the bloody socket's just rounding off. So do you know what? I'm just going to get the angle grinder and cut this nut off. There. The drive shaft on the passenger side can actually stay in the gearbox because we're going to take the gearbox off and put it back on the new engine. So I ain't got to touch that one, but I do have to release it from the hub. But this driver's side drive shaft does need to come out. We're actually getting there. There's not a whole lot more to do. There's one big turbo boost pipe which I've just unclipped here, 7mm, and pulled that round to behind the passenger side headlight out of the way. There's your 2 thermostat hoses, your top radiator hose and your bottom radiator hose, which both come off the thermostat, and we can pull them out of the way. And you've got 2 heater hoses. You'll also notice a big wiring loom that runs down the front of the gearbox. If you follow that around, that goes up underneath that radiator tray. Now that tray's out of the way, we can get to it. There's a big plug connector in there. Disconnect that plug connector, we can harness that up on the engine, and that can come off with the engine itself. The 2 aircon pipes will disconnect from the actual compressor unit, and I'll tuck them up by the radiator so they're nicely out of the way, don't get caught on nothing. So both our heater pipes are disconnected now. We'll just tuck them at the back of the bulkhead. The clutch pipe I've actually clamped so that the fluid don't leak out, and there's a little clip just here. If I pull that out, we can then separate that pipe. The big plastic turbo pipe that bolts to your gearbox, I've had to unbolt that simply to get to the gear cables, which I've got to now disconnect. But there's a bracket where they connect in down the back here. If you get your screwdriver just in there, you can kind of, this one's a bit shitty, God almighty, but you can prise it a little bit, and when you get that gap, then you can sort of like pull that forward like that, and then you can lift it out I can't really show it because I've only got one hand and I'm using it with a screwdriver, but you get the gist. When it's out like that, you can pull the cable upwards. I'll see if it will move up. Yeah, it's out. And to remove the cable from the gear linkage part, I'll just use a pair of long nose pliers and I just prise them carefully. That's it. Done. So now I think I can safely say all the pipes, hoses, wiring, God knows what, has all been disconnected from the engine to the car. So now all that should be holding the engine in is the two engine mounts, one this side and one on the gearbox. So I shall hook up our engine lifting tackle and then drop the engine out. I'm just going to stick this under the gearbox just to support it a little bit, because the weight of the gearbox is going to tip it down. I'm getting all excited now. That's the driver's side engine mount. Woohoo! I've just let the trolley jack down off the gearbox, so it's like tipped down this way now. So now I'm just going to lower the engine down very carefully and make sure it's not catching nothing. That's it. It's on the floor. Right, now I'm going to lift the car up in the air and drag the engine out. Yeah! There we go, one engine and gearbox out. Now all I've got to do is take the gearbox off and swap a load of bits from this engine, namely the DPF, onto our new engine. By the way, whoa! There's our new engine. It's actually got the entire wiring harness on it. Most of the stuff is actually on this, turbo injectors, the lot. So I haven't really got that much to put on here. A few bits like alternator, air conditioning pump, and we'll be done. This can go back in. So yeah, quite a big old lump, but I'll tell you what, there's plenty of room to drop this out underneath without actually catching anything. It's quite an easy job. Right, whew. I'll tell you what, although the weather's been cold lately, flipping heck, it's warming up today. Oh, it's Friday afternoon, yeah, and I'm done. So next week, when I get this engine fitted, which is just the reverse of what I've done taking it apart, or taking it out of the car. When I get this engine fitted, this dud engine, I'm going to take it apart and I want to know what's gone wrong with it. I want to know whether the oil pump chain has broken like it has in the last engine I've done, or whether something else has gone wrong, because like I said, it sounds like one of the con rods is about to come through the side of the block. So I want to investigate and see what's wrong. So that will be in the next video, somewhere along the line when I get around to doing it. So that's it. Till the next time, guys. See ya.